Can you believe it's December already? To close out this year's podcast, I have Jane from Umbrella Family Law for a catch-up. Now, we chatted for, well, just about anything because it wasn't planned in advance. I would call this a one-shot interview with minimum editing. Now, you won't get that usual 3-second breaks, but that can make it a little bit more interesting, isn't it? Welcome to Get Chatty About Your Local Businesses podcast. And we have a familiar face this time again. Jay, how are you?
So great to see you, Arthur. I'm really well. All the better for seeing you.
Oh, well, I mean, I'm very happy to see you. Like, it's been about a year since.
God, has it been that long already? Time flies.
I know. Yeah. It was a little bit like a late spring last time when I interviewed you.
And here we are in early spring.
By the time this episode come out, it will be like November or December. So I can't promise anything. So, I mean, if we dress like this in the middle of summer, then we're going to get rashes or something.
We're dressed in a weather-appropriate manner.
For
dear
today.
Viewer. Yes.
For today. Well, let's just jump into it. This is a totally unplanned episode. But I think like there's some amazing things happening July with the pet custody law related stuff.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So it kind of is amazing if you're a person who loves pets, which I am. Are you?
Yes.
Everybody in our office pretty much is fairly dog crazy. We do have a couple of cat people as well. But
I have a neighbor that has a dog. I remember her name, but I don't remember the parent's name.
Classic. Because of pet lovers, I think largely that the legislation has been changed. So really, before July of this year, June actually, I think it was, pets were essentially treated in separation like the fridge or the washing machine or the table. Yep. They were treated very much as chattels. So from a strict legal perspective before, it used to be really around, well, whose name is it registered in? Okay, it's likely that the person whose name it's registered in will get the pet post-separation. And little regard was given for the needs of the human or the needs of the pet. Now, since the changes that came in, what we can do is consider what's actually going to be in not quite as far as the best interest of the animal, but certainly we can consider the attachment of the humans to the animals, which is huge because sometimes the pet might happen to be registered in your partner's name, but they've got no bond and it actually means everything to you. So now we can consider that. We can also consider whether there's any family violence considerations, either to the pet or to the other person, which might then mean that it's more important for them to get the pet. And we can really also look at financial means and capacity to care for the pet. So things that are much broader than they were before. Still quite basic and obvious, right?
Better than being a fridge.
Better than being a fridge, exactly. As one of our lawyers said, there's no RSPCA for fridges, right? Yet, although who knows, the world's going crazy. But pets are very important to people, and so the law is now recognising that more and more. It's still it's human-centric. So in some countries, like, for example, Spain is a fairly recent one, they treat animals as sentient beings. So they actually look at the best interests of the animal. Our legislation hasn't gone as far as that, but it is now, thankfully, at least taking into account the interests of the human. So it's a really exciting, it's a huge step.
Yes.
And it's a massive step for families where, sometimes the pet is the third child is everything.
Yeah.
And now actually some proper consideration can be given to what is the relationship between each of those people and the animal and what's going to be the best arrangement for the animal.
I have a perfectly stupid question.
Love it.
I love your response. Just love it. Yep.
Bring it.
Yeah, I'm expecting it. Actually, before that, have I told you? So there's a bit of cut scene from the last interview, probably this one as well. Then I'm going to do a compilation called Shit Arthur Says.
You have mentioned that before. So nobody would be surprised by it.
Yes, that will be quite a bit from us.
That'll go viral.
Yeah, from both days. But I have a feeling that from the last one and this one. Anyway, okay, let's go back to See, this is going on a tangent already.
I love it.
Anyway.
I'm still loving it. Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, okay, I have a silly question. That is, what does it mean for the best interest? Because for a human, you can ask, you can get to know the context, you can get to know the personality, how they interact.
Yes.
You can't just go to a dog and say, woo, 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 woo.
It's really interesting, and I think there's going to be some testing around that, and it's really more again about the bond. So one of the things that's happening is that people are looking at engaging like a pet expert, for example, a dog trainer, to observe both parties with the animal and to get a sense of that dynamic, which I think is interesting. So when we're dealing with often court matters in relation to children, there will be a psychologist, say, or a social worker who does a family report, who will observe the parents with the kids and among other things as part of that process, and will get a sense of the relationship. So now we're starting to look at getting animal experts, typically dogs. I think this legislation covers all companion animals, so not a business animal, so not a cow that you're breeding, for example, but covers all companion animals. But I think the reality is that the thing most people are going to fight over probably is the dog.
Yeah.
So, yes, it's a matter of getting some relevant experts in to observe that bond.
Wow.
We've got a matter that's happening in our office at the moment around that. We haven't seen the report yet, but it will be interesting to see how that plays out. But beyond just the legal perspective, certainly the way that we like to work, and really everybody likes to try to resolve things, or many lawyers do, at the mediation phase rather than going into the court process. So I think if you're looking even still beyond the legislation, you need to very much realistically take into considerations of what's going to work for your pet. For example, and I may have said this last time, but we did pet custody training with an international expert on the subject, this amazing woman called Cara Snaft, and she is a dog trainer, but also trains mediators in how to do this work. And she was teaching us to think about, for example, the considerations of particular breeds. Like some of them are fine to be left alone for longer. Some of them will need to be with a person who's available to care for them all of the time. And she, for example, spoke of a family where they'd had a really loving, happy, healthy family pet, that when the family separated, the dad went to live elsewhere, the dog went feral. It started eating furniture and just kind of going nuts because apparently it was a large dog and dad used to take the dog out for runs to run off its energy. But mum didn't have time to do that because she was juggling the kids largely by herself, etc. The dog played out.
Oh.
So with the help of the expert in that context, it was, well, yes, the kids do love it and yes, mum loves it, but it's not actually in its best interest for it to be in this house where it can't get the exercise that it needs. So they switched and the pet went to live with dad. So it's really interesting to start to think about, and that's where it goes beyond what's in legislation still, but to think about the interests of the pet as well as the interests of the humans.
Would there be anything like almost like similar to like a co-parenting option?
Well, you can do that. One thing the legislation specifically says is that it doesn't provide for equal time or sharing of time with animals necessarily. But you could do that outside of the court process. We again learned in our training that doesn't always work for the pets because they sometimes get very confused, just like kids do, about where they belong.
Yeah.
So it's going to depend on the breed and their capacity to be able to deal with that. Because otherwise they just spend all their time looking out the door for the other parent.
I know. It's like
ours does when we're out of the home for the day,
Well,
So you can imagine it would be really confusing for little darlings.
It would be horrible because they need a home base they always know that where they are. And that's it's a delicate balance because it's a important and beautiful life in our lives. But at the same time, because, they can't speak human language, it would be quite freaky if they could. But
like Mr. Ed. Do you know Mr. Ed?
Wait, what?
The talking horse. Oh, you're far too young. Far too young.
What?
Not a real horse, but a TV show in which there was a talking horse.
I was like...
All of you, and he sounded a bit like that when he was neighing, actually. All of your older viewers will recall Mr. Ed.
Okay.
And all of your younger viewers need to look it up because he was very iconic. In my childhood in the 80s, played a big part.
Well, it's I lost my train of thought.
I have that effect on you.
Yes, I love it and I enjoy it a lot. You know what? Let's just jump to the next topic because it's
so many things to discuss about family law, right?
I know. Well, one of the things that is actually before we go to the next part, I'm just gonna throw a couple of random media representation. You haven't we haven't planned this before. you don't. I haven't sent you an email. The only email I sent you is like, I'm stuck on a number 58 and can't get here in time. But I turns out
we're flying by the seat of our pants here, Arthur, fast and loose.
Oh, I should put that on my grinder.
Oh God.
Okay, I'm fast and loose, but what were we talking about? Oh yes, the
Lawyer
random
representations of lawyers.
Well, this year they have the Jurassic Park Reborn movie or something like that.
More Jurassic Park, just what the world needs. Yes.
I know. Well, I mean, one of the funny thing is there's consistent that in multiple Jurassic Park movies that the lawyers are just blood-sucking, soulless people, usually the first or the second being eaten by the dinosaurs.
I think that would be what people throughout society think should happen to lawyers, sadly.
Oh, no.
But not me
or
my team. But I think that's a very common thing. People would think that that's what should happen to lawyers. Yeah.
It really is. But I mean, just like what we were talking
about. You agree? That's very sad.
Sorry. But no, I mean, the thing is like, well, until my day job, I didn't know. The only thing that I know about lawyers are like at a courtroom being like battling each other like Pokemon. But I mean, okay, not Pokemon, sorry. Shit, Arthur says. But there's more than that. Like, I mean, after meeting you the last time that you mentioned about like it's finding the best option about moving forward and moving on.
Absolutely.
Sometimes it might not even touch the courtroom.
Definitely not. Preferably not. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So that's a lot of that. Speaking of courtroom, this year, with the huge case.
2025, what are you going to mention? Let's guess.
Want to get some beef Wellington with mushrooms on it?
Well, yeah. I mean, there's so much that could be said about that. And there will be many podcasts on that subject, won't there?
Yes.
And what a huge job it was for lawyers on both sides.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I would say that I've been following the ABC podcasts about it. And in a way, I'm kind of glad that I get to learn about the justice system, about like, you know, for example, that the judge can make sure that when the jury are deliberating that they will be isolated from the media.
Absolutely. So important. I've never seen as much press around a case as I did around that. And that's an interesting subject for me actually, because I think that I feel like it's been really sensationalized.
Really
and we've all kind of on the edge of our seats about is she guilty or not. But what strikes me is that actually she was committing not only murder, but really a form of family violence.
Yeah.
If you think about it. And I wonder how it would be portrayed and perceived if it was a man that had been the killer. Because I feel like there's been kind of some, and this is opening a can of worms you might not have expected to open, but I feel like it's been kind of sensationalized and there's almost been an element of a figure of fun. Whereas I feel like if it had been a man, it would have maybe seemed kind of even scary, like a more grave, significant thing or something. I just feel like it's played out in a really interesting way.
Well, I mean, I think there's a true crime show called Snap, which is like women killing their husband or male partner or something like that, and they have different reasons for it, and in a way that these women are like not portrayed as hero, but not as villain either. And that kind of
yes, interesting. You should mention that because I went to see the musical Chicago last year.
He had it coming.
He had it coming. Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Totally glorifying domestic violence.
We just need 4 other people to sing the
so fantastic. The Merry Murderesses. Yes. Oh my God, love. But it really struck me when I went to see it that I reckon if that had been a musical about men killing their wives, it would have been cancelled.
Well, I mean, instead of called Chicago, it's called Monsters.
Yeah, right. Yes.
It would have been. Yes. It would have been something like that.
It's very so same thing. I remember doing a LinkedIn post about that because it really struck me. Like I love it. I love the music.
Yeah.
Well, it was a while ago. You're forgiven. But I was really struck that oh my God, this is actually kind of quite a violent thing.
Yeah.
But the music's fabulous. But the concept is problematic actually.
It really is.
And again, if it was men, you wouldn't go. I think you wouldn't, as you said, it would be a very different thing. It would be a horror movie.
Yeah,
exactly. A horror thing.
It would be a horror movie.
And you wouldn't go. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
It's I think in a way because especially with the accused, well, the murderer actually, convicted murderer, doesn't look like someone that would hurt people.
Yes,
that way.
going back to Erin.
Yes. So she like, and the thing is sometimes
that's true.
Even the thing is like there's a bit of a perception in our modern world that women are nurturing or the motherly figure or something like that, and she is a mother, so it's something like that. So in a way, maybe that's why people have such an interest in it. I
know, because there is that kind of juxtaposition.
Yes, and Agatha Christie,
and it does really pique the interest. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, speaking of horror movie, another representation is the Sex and the City revival called And Just Like That. Oh, did I call it a
Love the
horror
segue.
movie?
Love the segue.
Did I call it a horror movie?
You're not going to make us talk about Miranda going back to study, are you?
No.
She being the lawyer in the show and all.
No, but I am talking about her, but it's kind of related to, like, I mean, to me, actually, this is my rant, because I like her a lot. I love her in the original series. She's okay in the movies. The revival series is like a parallel version. Parallel universe version that doesn't really make sense. But I think one of the things that could have been a really good thing, I mean, if the writers actually involved like family lawyers, is that when someone discovered their sexuality later in life and the marriage with Steve broke off,
yes,
it could have been a much more interesting journey about finding the way that they can co-parent. They can find a way to
although Brady was older at that time, but yes.
Oh, yes.
But even
like 20, isn't it?
Yeah, but even so, it could have still been around dealing with him because I think, and from a legal perspective, because adult children aren't relevant in as much as you don't make orders for time with them.
Say if he's 10,
absolutely. Then yes, there could have been some beautiful stuff around. I feel like they would have effectively co-parented when he was little.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
I feel like they would have. I can imagine because this is a fabulous fantasy. What if Miranda and Steve had separated when they were younger?
Yes. So what if Miranda, instead of in her 50s, in her 40s, discovered that she's attracted to women?
Yes.
And wants to break it off with Steve?
Yes. So...
And she called family.
Yes, and she called Umbrella.
She called Umbrella.
First of all, I would have said, girl, let's go for a Cosmo and have a chat about it. Because that's what you do, right?
And then while you're having a Cosmo, we'll meet knocking on the window. Let me in, please. And then you'll be like, call security on that one.
Shit, Arthur says.
Yeah. No, don't pretend they don't know me. I don't know who that person is.
So, yes, if we were acting in that scenario, I would first of all be encouraging Miranda to get perhaps some of her own counselling support, which she might probably have anyway, about the beginning of the new journey.
Yep.
Which would be a very exciting one for her. And if need be, I would be encouraging her to perhaps get some counselling with Steve around what that meant for their dynamic, because he might be quite shocked by, was my whole relationship a sham? What does this mean? Did I do this to her? Has she fallen out of love with me? Is it about me? Is it what it's about? There's be a lot of kind of questions for Steve, I imagine. And then I would be saying to Miranda that from a legal perspective, it makes no difference because it's always around best interests of the child. And just because mum doesn't love dad anymore and is now interested in women, zero impact in terms of best interests of the child.
I see.
And so I would be encouraging her to see whether there was any common ground and whether they could co-parent. And in the case of those two, like I've just got this vision of her kind of sending so funny, sending Brady off with like a really cool backpack to Steve. In fact, they did separate when he was little.
Did they?
Yes, they did.
Yes, the first movie.
They did.
The first movie. Yes. Sorry. Yes.
They did.
Okay, let's install you in the first movie.
Reasons,
yeah, okay.
But for different reasons. But what they were modelling actually was really excellent separated parenting because they did manage to shuttle him well from one to the other. they did hand over the backpack, remember? And Magda was supportive, and she was supportive of Brady wherever he was, and they were able to have that birthday party together, which is a very important thing because all of the research is around if mum and dad can still be seen to get along together quite well and there's not conflict in front of the child will do fine post-separation. And equally, if mum's household is strong and dad's household is strong, same thing, the child will do okay post-separation. Yeah. So they actually did, had they continued to be separated, I think they would have done pretty well.
See, I mean, they don't need to go she go back to a law school and then that strange professor character that doesn't really gel with everyone else. I mean,
she was a very unusual character.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes.
But I mean, if instead of having such character, that same character, maybe even the same actor, that can become the lawyer.
Absolutely. Yes.
Give her that advice is because the thing is like we said in the last interview, we're not single digit. And then the thing is true. There are people discovering their sexuality later in life.
Absolutely.
When they have kids.
It's
when they have,
very common now. Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
hugely common. And really, I mean, particularly for women, I'm seeing a lot in kind of older women who find passion and joy and kind of rediscover themselves with other women at a later in life stage. Because some men later in life are,
gross.
So
No, I mean, let me be clear. Let me be clear about this for a moment for recording. It's not just older.
I thought you were going to make some PC comment, but no, you're just writing them all off. I mean, and let's face it, there will be a number of male viewers out there who are thinking, heterosexual ones who are thinking, honey, women are not great either. I mean, we're all human, aren't we? True. We all have foibles. But to that point, so the first thing to understand is that it makes zero difference from a family law perspective. And obviously what you're wanting to do is go to a lawyer who, I mean, you and I have been joking around a bit, but you're, of course, wanting to go to somebody who's going to be receptive and is not going to bat an eyelid when you say that you're going through that journey. Yeah. Because, again, it makes zero legal difference. But it does add a layer of complexity emotionally on both sides and also for the child, I think, sometimes, because there's something new for them to have to get their head around. And, again, as long as they're getting love, affection, attention from both parents still, and ideally that's a situation where you would really want to make sure that the parent who was not the one who'd instigated the leaving because of change of sexuality was not denigrating the other parent. I mean, that's always the case. Is that you can imagine if you're the little person, there's that concept of if I'm being critical of mum or dad, I'm being critical of a part of you. And so that's the bottom line, is you should never be critical about the other parent to a child.
Well, the thing is, things like this are super complex because it involves people, relationship, way that people live, and how people are connected together. It's not like a straightforward equation that divided by half or something like that.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah, and having that, and particularly for example, if divorce is because someone discovered their sexuality differently, like many of the LGBT plus community that this podcast present to, for fuck's sake, and they, like you said, if they work with an ally, knowing that it's you know what, you're a human. Absolutely. That's important, because if they think that their lawyers are going to be judgmental towards them or something like that, that's not going to be a good thing.
And I am constantly amazed through my visits to Globe and chats with other friends around how much stigma there can still be personally, but also professionally, by professionals, around people who just don't understand the kind of, yes, there's a basic kind of humanness and we all go through the same journey, but there is an added complexity, isn't there? Whether or not you've just recently changed sexuality or gender or whatever it might be, or whether that's how you've been for your whole life, there's still, it adds a complexity, right? Because there is that question of, okay, so now I've got to tell my story, but also I've got to come out, or I've got to say that I'm transitioning, or whatever it might be. There's an added layer, which is why counselling support is so important for everybody. Yes.
Totally. And something that you touch on is actually very important, because we're talking about media representation, because we got all of these amazing courtroom dramas, and it would be like lawyers battling Pokemons and something like that. And but there are non-adversarial, I hope I'm using the right terms.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
Non-adversarial ways.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that
absolutely.
side of things?
So I guess
in your space,
even embedded now in the Family Law Act is that you have to go to mediation before you can issue court proceedings. It's been that way in relation to children's matters for quite a while, but also more recently it's that way in relation to property matters too. But I guess there's a difference between mediating to get it out of the way because the legislation says you have to, and mediating because you actually genuinely want to come to a negotiated outcome rather than putting yourself through the door of the court. So for us and for many lawyers, we very much try to talk to people about ways to resolve things that's going to keep the conflict down, keep the emotional and financial toll down for them. One of those ways is by mediation. Another way is by way of collaboration, where the parties and their lawyers sit around the table and really focus on what are their interests and goals, what's important to this family. And sometimes what's important to the family and the things that you might want to take into account are different to what the law says that you should take into account.
Oh.
And that can be okay.
Oh.
You know, sometimes, for example, the law might say if you brought in an inheritance a long time ago in relation to your property settlement, for example, that's kind of washed out over time and it's kind of too bad.
Mm-hmm.
But to somebody who brings in that inheritance, it might be really important and significant actually that, hang on, this was money that I got from my parents. And, you know, and so in a collaborative type context or outside of the courtroom, you can encourage people to think about the actual real world impact of something, which sometimes is greater or lesser or different to the way that the law would see something. So I guess there's a couple of ways. One is that you can, mediate, you can collaborate, or you can just, of course, have roundtable discussions with your spouse if you feel comfortable to do that. Going to a lawyer to get some advice. Well, going to a lawyer to get some advice about how it all works and what your entitlements might be and the points that you might want to negotiate, but then trying to do it yourself if you feel safe and comfortable and there aren't family violence issues, etc.
That's true.
And a lot of people do come to us for that. And they say, I want to go and just deal with this directly with my spouse, whether it's in person or by email or whatever. I just want to know what I should say, what I'm entitled to, etc. And sometimes we'll help people draft an email that they might, the correspondence that they might send to their ex so that it feels less inflammatory, because there is a big stigma, I think, about lawyering up. Right?
Oh, gosh, yeah.
So even if you write the nicest possible letter as a lawyer, the ex is still going to kind of think, they've gone to a lawyer. I know where this is going, because of all the negative stereotypes around law as well.
And the thing is sometimes that when you are feeling something, when there's emotion involved, maybe anger, maybe disappointment, or maybe frustration or something like that, you might be writing something that you didn't really mean to. Like,
Absolutely.
It's like you can't start an email saying, well, when you pull your head out of your ass, let's look at this. Like, I mean,
however much you might want to, it's not going to help.
And I'm presuming, but I'm sure that you are not planning to start an email with.
Well, I certainly wouldn't be. And if a client,
and I don't think anyone from your team would be.
No. No lawyer would probably. Most lawyers wouldn't. If a client was sending me a draft that had said that because I just needed to get it out, then I would certainly be helping them with languaging about that. And actually in the parenting space now, there are a number of co-parenting apps. I mean, let's face it, there's ChatGPT, which will do this as well.
Fair.
But a number of co-parenting apps which will kind of tone and language modify so that they will take the rant and then make it something that's more palatable to be received by the other parent.
Oh, I would say that, yes, it's true. Generative AI can be very helpful. But then, like, for example, for someone like yourself and your team, you will know the person a little bit.
Yes.
When you edit, you can tailor to them a little bit.
You can. And certainly from our perspective, we're not yet using it to draft professional documents. I use it. I'm obsessed with it for marketing. Obsessed.
Oh, I use it for social media.
But yeah, of course, right? But I'm not using it. We're not using it in the legal space yet, although, of course, that's a whole other conversation around how that will come in and how that will play out. And I know there's work being done in that space now. But I think it's interesting because, for example, I met with a psychologist recently she has not become addicted to AI. So I went and I talked to ChatGPT about, imagine that I was a person who was, depressed or whatever at my separation. And I did a whole spiel and said, imagine I saw and I named this counsellor in the way that she works. What would she say to me? So ChatGPT gave me a spiel about what this counsellor would say, which I then sent to her And she said, yeah, that is along the lines of what I would say to the client. But I then also did say to ChatGPT, why should I see her and not just talk to you? And thankfully, it did acknowledge that there would be benefit in seeing a human to deal with your emotional crisis, right? And I think that's going to be a really interesting thing for lawyers. I think that those of us who bring to it real heart and care factor and empathy and intuition will still survive in the space because many people are going to want that.
Yeah.
But if you just want spit me out a result and I'll go and sort it out myself, then of course there's going to be some great things available in the AI space to support people who don't want the human touch. But I personally think that in something that's so important, there's still going to be a need for humanity.
Definitely. I think, and another thing is, from what I can observe, many of them actually have really high emotional intelligence that they can really handle themselves and help others. Because from that point of view, that's something that not a technology, a generative AI or ChatGPT can replace.
I'm glad you think so, and I hope that a lot of people will continue to think that because I think that that's invaluable myself.
Look, I mean, they can't even help me to write a Grindr profile. What? Well, let's change to another topic.
Let's.
Okay. Well, this would have happened before this episode being released, but I noticed on your LinkedIn that you guys are helping parents to plan ahead. That you have a seminar.
Yes, absolutely.
Like
so we're starting to work in the space of. I've had a number of women that I've been acting for who have been going through IVF or maybe having babies later in life, perhaps in shorter relationships because they got to a point where they want to do that. And they've been really giving a lot of thought to what's this going to mean for me moving forward with my life? What sacrifices am I going to be making financially, for example, to spend time caring for my child? So women in particular who might have accumulated assets during the course of their lives, having their children later in life, worrying about what happens when they separate. Will they lose their assets? No, perhaps they're also on good incomes.
Yep.
Worrying about, and this is stereotypically for women, the same would apply really for a man who was going to be staying home as a primary carer, of course, but it happens that I've been experiencing it with women. And thinking also, well, I'm going to be having time out on parental leave. What about my massive income? What about the accumulation of my superannuation? I'm doing this really as a bet. Yes, I want to do it because I'm choosing to have a child, but I'm doing this for the benefit of both of us within our couple. If we separate, I want potentially some compensation from you for the fact that I was the one that sacrificed to enable our child to have a parent at home.
Yeah.
So it's a really interesting space and really encouraging people to not just think, what brand of nappies are we going to buy but how much money can we spend at baby bunting, if that still exists, but also what is the plan going to be? How is our life going to change practically and financially, and really thinking about how that's going to work. And what you can then do is enter into a binding financial agreement, as anybody can who's not thinking about having a child but who's entering into a relationship or in a relationship, to look at protecting their assets in the event that they separate. So that they're going into this with a whole plan of, yes, there would be a whole lot of grief and difficulty and whatever if we separated and what would happen physically to our child, but financially I know that I'm going to be okay. Because I think that particularly those kind of older parents in that space, again, if they've accumulated a lot and they're doing really well and they feel like they're going backwards, to have something that they want, the fabulousness of the child, they just want to know that they're going to be okay financially as well because they've worked so hard for it.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is because, we're living in the current day and age that people are having children or child a lot later in life compared to just finished uni and things like that. They will be more established. And actually, when you were describing that, it kind of reminded me of, it's not a parallel, but it's somewhat relatable. That is, it's just like for anyone who started a small business, they would definitely want to set up a business plan.
Yes.
They have something to anchor themselves so they can focus on what's important, which is the business, developing the business.
Yes.
And in your way, that is you're developing a relationship, a new child, a new relationship.
Which isn't like a small business of its own in a way.
Well, that shits.
It's a project, right?
That shits.
Yes, that shits. Yes. But actually, tangentially or maybe parallel, something. Also, if you're not having a child but you are starting a small business, which may become a big business, that is also a time to think about entering into an agreement with your partner to protect your assets. Because you don't necessarily want to be putting in all of your sweat equity and your time and your everything else, and then discovering that because you're starting the business fairly newly in your relationship, suddenly the value of it at the end has to be taken into account as part of your property settlement, and you've got to pay your partner out for what you might feel is kind of rightfully yours. So that's definitely another point at which people might want to consider getting a binding financial agreement or cohabitation agreement. You might be in a perfectly happy relationship, but you just want to protect yourself in the event that it ends. And while I'm on that rant, I know we're not where we were before, but also if you're receiving gifts of money from family to buy a house, for example, that's another good trigger for entering into that kind of agreement. Ooh. And also an inheritance. Or no, and sometimes there's going to be an imbalance in the inheritances that people might receive. And sometimes the family who are going to be providing the inheritance will say, can we have you enter into a financial agreement so that we know when we're giving you all this money when we die, that it won't go to your spouse, it will stay with you.
I see.
So that's another consideration for doing that kind of agreement.
That is fascinating. Wow. Because it's true, because the more you talk about it, the more involvement of everyone's connected.
Right.
Like everyone's related.
Yes.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. So when you're talking to your young, upwardly mobile entrepreneurial people, or those people are listening to this podcast, prime candidates for considering a cohabitation agreement to protect all their hard work in the event that they separate.
I see. Wow. It's and also I always believe in when there's a difficult conversation, have it early. It's not having it late.
Definitely.
It's like when you keep it in for too long, it actually just going to brew into something nasty, something unnecessarily. Yes.
And actually, on that point, we have a new product brewing now that's going to be around, which I will be able to reveal the next time we speak.
Yes.
That's going to be around helping people to have those difficult conversations in their relationships.
That's fantastic.
Because we, of course, get to see a lot of the triggers that cause people to separate. So we want them to start thinking about those things early.
Love it. I love it. Well, back to the program that we were talking about.
Yes.
Is it something that you got to do regularly? Or
I think that we will, because we're seeing a real need in that space. And I've met this fabulous woman, Helen Z, who is a counsellor who works in the fertility space in particular, often working with families going through IVF. And she does the kind of emotional work around helping them to have the difficult conversations. And it's a really great combination to then work with me to then talk about the financial, practical, legal considerations as well. So, I think it's something we'll definitely do again. And in fact, depending on when your podcast is on, we're also part of the Fertility Expo that she's running, which is on the 8th of November. Which will be interesting, where there'll be a whole lot of providers in that space, but we're there coming from our perspective around getting people to have those conversations.
Well, look, I mean, the thing is, imagine that when you're dealing with trying to make it happen, then if you get someone like yourself and your team to help
think about all of the factors at once, right?
Oh gosh, yes.
And ideally to, a bit earlier in the journey before you become more hormonal in a pregnancy or before kind of the D-Day is coming in terms of the arrival of the child. It's better to think about it and deal with it sooner than later and then just put it to one side so you can deal with the fun stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, in that case, we're wrapping this episode up, but I think this is also another perfect segue. That is for people who are interested to find out more about what you guys do and also follow the is it workshop or seminar?
Yeah, workshops.
Workshops.
Yep.
Anyone who interested to find out about the workshops, how can they find you?
umbrellafamilylaw.com.au or email jane@umbrellafamilylaw.com.au.
There you go. All the information on the show notes. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jane, for our catch-up interview. Please check out Umbrella Family Law on social media or their blog for the latest news and explainers. On the show notes, you can find a couple of links to some of the topics that we talked about. So just to give you an idea. Now, the pod will take a little break. And I'm planning to bring you a new series in February or March 2026. I'm going to use this time to rework my site, chattycurator.com, and do some revisiting on all of the interviews so far as LinkedIn articles. I want to thank and show my support to all of the podcast guests so far because they all took part in kind, so please consider liking or sharing on social media. They might seem to be small steps, but they can really help. Thank you for tuning in this podcast. I hope you enjoy your time with all of us this year. I wish you a safe and enjoyable holiday season. Thanks for listening.